हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू एल्गो क्लासेस। आज के वीडियो में हम देखते हैं कि स्क्वायर रूट्स कैसे निकाल सकते हैं, और वो भी एक बड़े खास मेथड से जिसका नाम है लॉन्ग डिवीजन मेथड। यानी नॉर्मली आप अगर एट्थ ग्रेड में हैं, नाइन्थ ग्रेड में हैं, टेंथ में हैं, या किसी हायर ग्रेड में हैं, या इवन लाइफ में कभी भी आपको कभी ऐसी सिचुएशन आती है वेर वेर यू आर गिवन अ नंबर एंड यू नीड टू फाइंड द स्क्वायर रूट। तो आप इस मेथड को यूज़ करके कितने भी बड़े नंबर, किसी भी तरीके के नंबर, इवन डेसिमल नंबर्स का आप स्क्वायर रूट बड़े आसानी से निकाल सकते हैं। तो देखते हैं कैसे ये किया जाता है। सपोज यू आर हैविंग एक लार्ज नंबर है और स्क्वायर रूट आपको निकालना है। लेट्स से स्क्वायर रूट ऑफ 625। अगर आपको लॉन्ग डिवीजन मेथड एग्जीक्यूट करना है तो आप जैसे डिवीजन के लिए आप एक लाइन बनाते हैं और उसके नीचे आप अपना नंबर लिखते हैं, एंड देन यू ड्रॉ अ लाइन हियर आल्सो। तो सबसे पहला काम जो आप करते हो वो ये करते हैं कि हम नंबर को दो दो नंबर के पेयर में डिवाइड करते हैं, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द राइट मोस्ट पोजीशन। तो जैसे यहाँ पे 625 है, तो सबसे पहले एक पेयर 25 का, क्योंकि हम राइट से शुरू होते हैं, और फिर जो ऑड वन बच भी जाए तो उसको एक साथ पेयर कर देते हैं। तो ये पहला स्टेप है, यानी फॉर्मिंग पेयर्स। राइट टू लेफ्ट। नाउ इसके बाद आप सबसे पहले जो नंबर में प्रेसिडेंस जो मिलती है वो लेफ्ट मोस्ट पेयर की होती है, और उस पेयर को हम सेलेक्ट करते हैं फॉर एग्जीक्यूटिंग दिस लॉन्ग डिवीजन मेथड। और किस तरीके से आप इस नंबर से ऐसा एक नंबर ढूंढते हैं जिसका स्क्वायर इस नंबर के से छोटा या इसके बराबर हो। सो वी नो वन स्क्वायर इज वन, 2 square is 4, 3 square is 9. So 2 is that number जिसका स्क्वायर करेंगे तो you get a value 4, which is smaller than or equal to this number. अगर आप 1 करेंगे तो that would not be a good choice, because उसके आगे 2 भी एग्जिस्ट करता है जिसका स्क्वायर 6 से छोटा है। एंड सिमिलरली अगर आप 3 के स्क्वायर पे जाएंगे तो यू गेट अ नंबर विच इज बिगर, जो सही चॉइस नहीं होगा। सो वी स्टार्ट विथ 2, एंड 2 times 2 gives us 4, and what we get is a remainder which is also 2. So that's the second step would be to find a number whose square is less than or equal to the first pair. अब आगे बढ़ते हैं। सो वंस यू हैव द फर्स्ट रिमाइंडर वैल्यू, आप नेक्स्ट पेयर को नीचे उतार सकते हैं। सो दिस बिकम्स योर न्यू नंबर जिसके ऊपर आपको लॉन्ग डिवीजन एग्जीक्यूट करना है। And as a step, what we need to do is that we need to double whatever is the value in the quotient. So if you have a 2 here, you write a 4 here. And you write a blank over here as well. I'll tell you what we do with this. So before going any further, so what we have done is we found a square, and then as a third step we say we bring down the next pair. In this case 25. And 4 is that double the quotient and write it down to the left of new number to be divided. Double the quotient would be 4 here and new number is 225. Now this important step, ये जो blank है, it is to be filled with something. And what is that something is what we investigate. Okay, we need to find a number which can be filled in this place such that when you multiply by the same number which you write over here, the product is a value which is either equal to this number or less than this number. So the way to do it is we start with 1, so it would be 41 and multiplied by 41. So that is 41. So that value is way smaller than this. So you want to find out the closest value to this such that either it is equal to this number or just smaller than this. So I think a good guess would be to start with, let's say, 6 maybe. Let's see. So if we have 6 here, so our calculation becomes 46 times 6. And 6 is 36, 4 is 24 and 27. And we notice this value is greater than this. That means 6 is also not a very good choice. It needs to be a number smaller than 6. So let's start with 5 and I'll erase this and we'll pick 5. So 45 times 5 would be 5, 525, 5 4 is 20, 225. And that is the number which is actually equal to whatever we had. So that means this 5 is the choice we need to take. And this value is similarly repeated over here. And the remainder we get is 0. So if I write the following steps, then what we would do, double the quotient and then as a next step, find a number to fill the blank such that the new divisor when multiplied with the number found gives a result less than or equal to the dividend, or in this case 225. So as we could see that when in the end you get a remainder 0, so that means that this number right here is a perfect square. So what is it a perfect square of? This number. So the value in the quotient is what this which when squared gives you the number which we had initially. So you can say that 625 square root is 25. Simple enough. It's possible that not always you get एक ऐसा नंबर ज़रूरी नहीं है आपको हमेशा perfect square numbers मिलें. So what do we do in that case? अगर perfect squares नहीं है तो आपका number square root would be some number in whole plus a few decimal digits. So let's find out how we work this out. So we'll take another example. Let's say 441. and we want to find out the square root of it. So again, we follow the same step. We write this number over here, 441, and we take pairs of it. Again, the same way. So what we will do now is, I think it's still a perfect square. So we'll get the end up with, let's modify this value and say it is 442 instead. 2 and 2. So we take a pair, in the first pair, we need to find a number whose square is less than or equal to this. So that would be 2. We get a remainder 0, and then we bring this other pair down. After that, we have to square this, double this. So that would be 4. And then you put a blank here and fill this space with one number, which when you get has to be multiplied with the same. It gives a value which is smaller than this value. So that would be 1 in this case. So 41 times 1 gives us 41, and that would be it. And in the end, you're getting a remainder as 0. So now we know that since the remainder is not 0, that means this number is not a perfect square. And as a result, we need to place some, decimal value here. And when you are able to place decimal value here, you can bring down, you can fill this place up after the decimal with as many pairs of zeros. So we add pairs of zeros to go into the decimal place. So with the decimal here, I can place a decimal here as well, and as a result, I can bring this first pair down. And now I repeat the process by doing the double of the quotient, which is 42, and filling the space with a blank here, and finding a number again much the same way, which in this case would be 0. Because if we do 1 times 421 times 1, that would give me 421, which would have exceeded this value. So I will take 0. So this value gives me a 0 over here, and the remainder is 100, and I write a 0 over here as well. And after this 100, I can bring down the next pair. Then I do a double, which is 2 1 zeros double would be 420. I would ignore the decimal when I'm doing the double. And then a blank. And I think this time the next best choice would be 2. If you do by 2, you get a value 4048, which is smaller. And then 6 9 5 1. So which kind of is still within the range. So that's a good, 2 as a number was a good choice. So I'll keep it over here. And with this remainder, I can bring another pair down. Now I must tell you here that you can find square roots of imperfect squares, as we call them, up to as many places as we want. But generally, up to the 2 places after the decimal is a good choice. It still, अगर आप third place तक भी निकालते हैं, तो it doesn't hurt, and you can always approximate the square root value up to 2 places for your own needs, depending on what you need it for. किसी calculation में आपको इतना precision की ज़रूरत होती है 2 digits तक, तो आप 3 digits तक निकाल लियो, फिर round up करेंगे. कहीं आप scientific calculations कर रहे हैं, तो you may need it for much more decimal places. तो आप उधर इसके further places तक भी निकाल सकते हैं. And of course, it doesn't mean that you can't use a calculator, but not always that you would want to use that. There may be scenarios where you want to try it on your own. So for the last step, what we would do is, we have brought this 0 0 down, and we'll double this value, which would be in this case 4204, and then I place a blank. Now, as you can tell, this is 4204, and if I do 4 here, that is kind of going to go over this value, because with 4 and multiplying by 4, it would give me 16 in the first place, 16 as the initial places, and that is going to go away from here. So I'll start with 3, and let's see what we get. 3 into 3 is 9, 3 4 is 12, 3 20 is 6, and 3 4 again a 12. And this is 1743, and that's a value which is smaller than this, and this is where we would leave it at. So if someone asks you for the square root of this number, you can write it as 21.02, and up to 2 decimal places would be this. Up to 3 decimal places you can include 3, but I would suggest, like, even for your own practical purposes, most of the time up to 2 decimal places would be sufficient. And as I told you, this method is not just alone applicable for perfect squares, but even applicable for imperfect squares as well. आप किसी भी तरीके के नंबर का स्क्वायर रूट निकाल सकते हैं. And with that, we come to the end of this short video. अगर आपको ये वीडियो अच्छा लगा हो तो आप मेरे चैनल को लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब कीजिए. अगर आप किसी और टॉपिक पे, कोई और टेक्निक पे, मैथ्स के अंदर अगर कुछ कंटेंट देखना चाहते हैं मुझसे, आपको लगा कि मैं इस चीज़ को आपके लिए हेल्प कर पाया, तो राइट इन द कमेंट सेक्शन बिलो. हैव अ गुड डे.